Okay, so we have our character here rigged with biped in 3D Studio Max. And before we start setting keys for a standard walk or a vanilla walk, let's go quickly look at the chart, a chart that breaks down the poses on a simple walk, right? This is from the Animator Survival Kit. It's an excellent book that I recommend. This is the basically broken down the main poses for a walk. Notice that you start and end with a contact position where both feet are making contact with the ground. That's how you can see it. And that pose is going to be reversed at the end of the first step. And then as the other leg goes up, you end up with a cycle. That is when the other leg is on the same position that where it started. So we're going to get started with creating our contact position first, then we're going to do our passing position. The down and up we can refine a little bit, but the main, let's focus on the first, the last and the passing position first for the time being, so that you understand the concept of that first step. As far as animation timing, remember that you have 24 frames or 24 drawings for 1 second of animation. So we're going to animate to 25. That way we remove that last frame and then we make it a cycle of about 1 second, okay? So let's get started with creating that contact pose. And I know that many of you are overwhelmed, so many details of the walk. Focus first, as you start your very first animation of a walk, on the legs and on the arms. And then after that, then you refine shoulders, hips, and head movement. But focus first on making that movement constant and look believable with the hands and the feet or the legs, okay? So let's get started by creating that initial contact position. His right leg is going to be forward and his left leg is going to be back. And the arms will be opposite. Remember that whenever the leg is forward, the opposite arm is forward to create balance, okay? So let's get started. First of all, I'm going to set up a little bit my viewports. So I'm going to go here, maximize viewport toggle, and I'm going to click in the middle here and drag up just to get the two main viewports that I'm going to be working on. And right now they're both perspective. This is perspective and this is perspective. So I'm going to set up this one here to be the right viewport or the left, so that he's facing the same direction than on the chart, going from left to right. Okay, so that's gonna make it easier. So with that said, I'm going to next hide the body geometry because it's gonna be on the way. There's no controller set up for this rig, so we're gonna right click on that the body after selecting it, and I'm gonna click hide selection. That way we have our character, with just the head is okay. We're gonna be working on the feet now. So his right leg is gonna go forward and it's gonna be touching the ground a little bit with the toes, with the heels, I'm sorry. So I'm going to go over here, and on the perspective viewport I'm gonna click Control R to rotate. You can also use the icon over here, rotate, and just kind of move it to the side. And using the left viewport for reference, I'm going to use the move tool and I'm going to move that forward, okay? And then I'm going to go to the other leg, the other foot, select that one foot and move it back. Okay, so I have my initial setup there. I'm going to rotate a little bit. If you want to do that, you can do that. Just rotate a little bit, and you can rotate the front. I don't want to get you too confused, but you can bend the toe that way. So that that is kind of touching the floor there. So next we're gonna set up keys. Okay, if you notice in your timeline down here you have 100 frames, but we only need 24 frames for our first second of animation, right, for our walk. So let's change it right here on the time configuration window. Is the one that looks like a little clock with a steampunk gear. So go on the length over here and set it to 25. Let's set it to 25 and press OK. When we do that, you're going to see now that we only have 25 frames, and that's what we're going to focus on. And now we can see each individual frame on the timeline as we set them. As we set the keys, we're going to see all the keys in there. So let's go to that foot that is now, you know, facing moved back. And while we have the timeline here, I'm clicking and dragging here on frame 0. I'm going to go to the motion tab and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm just going to close every single thing that I'm not going to use, and I'm going to go to the key info section. Okay, that's where we're going to set the keys, and the tool we're going to use is this set sliding key option. So click on that. When you do that, you're going to notice that there's now a key set up for that, and I'm gonna do the same for the other foot at the same time, times 0. So set sliding key, and since we're doing a little bit of rotation here, I'm going to set one for that. Set sliding key and set sliding key. So the toes and the actual foot have, all of them have keys over there. I'm going to go to the main node. Notice how our character seems to be a little bit floaty over there. It's because probably it's a little bit too high to stretch. So I'm going to go to that main node, the one that is in the very center of your biped, and I'm just going to move it a little bit lower. And I'm going to grab again that one foot and push it a little bit down so that it touches that darker line that is representing the grid. So I'm going to do it a little bit again, a little bit more there. I think that's good. So I'm going to once again set a key on frame 0, sliding key, and on the foot and on the toe. And since that is the same pose, let's go back to our graph, and that is the same pose that we're going to end up with over here, actually on the 25th frame. That's exactly the same pose. Notice how the right leg is forward, right leg forward. So let's do that. Since we are there and we have the character positioned perfectly for that, so let's do that. 25th and frame 25, let's set a key for those 4 sections, you know, the foot, the ball, the toes. Set sliding key, set sliding key, and set sliding key. Okay, so what happens is then on frame 13 we have the opposite pose, right? So let's set up the middle contact position that is pretty much the same pose but inverted. So let's get those feet and put them in the position of the other. Okay, so I'm just gonna move this one here. So now our blue will be on the front and will be over here. Oops, click back. Let's position it first, then position it, get it front, and then let's set a key. And oh, I forgot to move the slider, sorry about that. It's supposed to be on frame 13, right? That's where our opposite positions happen. So let's get this one, move it forward and down. We'll edit it in a moment, but make sure you set a key first and then grab the opposite foot and let's move it back. Set the key first and then now we're going to rotate it. So now rotate it and move it down and set your key. Set sliding key, and that we're gonna fix that rotation now on the other one. And so just grab it like that. Probably might need to move it forward. So set your key on frame 13, and then over here in this one, you know, fix your rotation so that that foot is not there. And I'm just trying to make it flat. This the rig I'm using for some reason is not, the feet are not lined up straight, so that creates some problems when animating. So let's go sliding key and sliding key. So now we have them lined up. Okay, you could actually grab this one, maybe angle it a little bit more, and even maybe this one here, make it go down, and possibly moving this one up. And let's set those keys again. Set the key on the foot and on the front. Sliding key. Perfect. Let's take a look and see how it's looking, right? So let's play it. So he's skiing right now, right? So we got some movement and it's looking good so far. Now we're going to be adding the in-between poses, okay? So we set our initial, middle, and last contact, but between the first and second contact position, that where the feet are inverted, reversed, we need to have a passing position where that leg that moves forward then lines up back with the body, because it's holding all the weight, right? So let's make it line up with the body, go flat on the floor, and let's make the other one kind of moving forward. Okay, so we're gonna do this pose now. Passing position on frame, let's look at our chart. On frame number 7, that's where we're gonna set up that passing position next. Okay, so now we're creating a little bit more variation on that movement. So on frame 7, our right leg, which is the green one, right, the guy's right foot, should be on frame 7, should be right here in the middle, or somewhat in the middle, kind of holding the weight. And I'm gonna set a key over there. So let's set a key, sliding key on frame 7, and I'm gonna rotate it a little bit since okay, make it straight, and sliding key, and set our keys on both the foot, the front and the back, right, since we are doing both. And then we're the other foot will be kind of floating back, right, on the back, you know, kind of passing. So we'll move it a little bit further back, rotate it perhaps a little bit. Let's do it here. Let's set our key first so that we don't lose the position. Rotate, and I'm gonna do it here, and probably move it a little lower, and let's set a key right there. So sliding key, and then the front part, let's rotate it a little bit to make it a little bit more relaxed, and sliding key. Okay, so let's take a look now to see what's happening. We are now going from contact to passing. Notice that then now the blue leg, right, his left leg, gets picked up and ready to pretty much go the other way. I would say on frame 7, let's make that a little bit more, a little bit higher, I would say, so that it, you know, has a little bit more visual difference of what is it that we're doing. So let's go move it up and update it. So set sliding key, and then on the front too I will rotate that a little bit to make it a little bit more relaxed. So I'm going to rotate a little bit to flatten it a little bit more, and sliding key. Okay, so let's deselect everything and see now how it looks. So we go from 0 to 7. That blue leg gets lifted up while the other one slides back. And now we haven't set our other position yet, which is our up position. That's our next pose. So, but let's see for a moment, let's take a look at this chart before we move on to the up position. And notice how the head, as the legs move back and forth, you know, shifting the weight, the head tends to bounce a little bit, go up and you know, up and down, up and down. On the passing position, the one that we just set at frame 7, is slightly higher than on the contact position, if you notice. So let's set a little bit of movement on that position by keying over here on the main node. And for that, we're going to use auto key. Okay, so let's go to frame. Actually, we can set it here with the biped tools. So let's do it on the biped tools here. On frame 0, let's just say the initial key, and you're going to notice that you have your initial key set up there. And let's set the one for the last frame, right, 25th, and halfway there on frame 13 was our other contact position, right? So let's set it there so that we have the same height on the body at those 3 stages. On frame 7, that's where our passing position is. Let's make it slightly higher, not too much, just a little tiny bit higher. So let's go to frame 7, and that will also help us straighten up this leg. If you notice, that has a little bit of a bend, while over here on the passing position, that leg looks straight. So let's move it up with the move tool over here. Let's move up that node a little higher until that leg is straight or almost straight. Don't pull make sure you don't pull the foot out of position, right? So let's set another key and let's see what happens. We start lower, and now it looks like it bounces a little bit. You see, now it has a little bit more flow to it. Excellent. Let's set our next passing position on frame 19. In this case, our blue leg, or the one on the back, is going to be the one that is going to be on the ground. Okay, so on frame, what did we say? On frame 19, we're going to do an opposite passing position now. So let's go frame 19, and now instead of our green leg on the ground, now our blue leg is the one that is going to be on the ground. So let's put it somewhere. See if we can do it here. And set a sliding key over here. And since our green leg is kind of on the way, that's the one that's going to be held up now. So let's move it back and set a sliding key, and let's rotate it so that that foot is not, you know, I would say probably rotate the toes as well. Rotate the toe, and let's set the keys because it's not keeping the rotation. So let's rotate, set key, rotate, set the key, and now I'm going to move it back So I'm just going to lower it a little bit, and you can edit it a little bit further more if you want, and set the key. Okay, so now we got our opposite, but the blue leg is still kind of, you still have a little bit of bending on that knee. So what I'm going to do is move up that center node, right, the main biped node, and I'm going to move it up until I achieve that that straight leg that I need. And I'm seeing already a problem because now it's on kind of on the air, so we still need to fix that. So let's go and set the key over here for that main node, and let's just try to see if we can lower that. There you go, lower that foot at frame 19 and update that key, sliding key. And this probably needs to be rotated a little bit because it kind of looks like it's going through the floor. So I'm going to rotate it and slide key. Okay, so there you go. We did the opposite contact pose. So I'm going to now play it, and so far is looking good, right? So when we come back, we're going to be working a little bit then on the arms.